Ashland, Oregon, June the 14th, 2025. There are towns that try to forget and towns that never got the chance. Ashland was the latter. Nestled between pine-covered hills and crumbling rail lines, it was a town built to look like it never aged. A place with bookstores that still sold postcards, where every other window held a wind chime or a dream catcher someone made in '98. But the paint on the porches peeled faster these days, and the smile behind the counter at the corner diner looked a little more forced. The story had gone cold a long time ago, cold enough that even the people who remembered stopped talking about it. A school field trip in 2007, a yellow bus that never returned, 14 middle school students, one teacher, no crash site, no bodies, no answers, and no questions anymore. Until now. Erin Mallory hadn't stepped foot in Ashland in over 7 years, not since her father's stroke, not since the house on Penrose Drive had gone quiet. But on that Saturday morning, June 14th, 2025, she crossed the city line at 6:42 a.m., gravel spitting beneath her tires, a knot in her throat that hadn't left since Boston, and a silver bracelet tucked inside her coat pocket like a secret that had waited long enough. She didn't tell anyone she was coming. She hadn't even told herself until she was already past ring. The bracelet had shown up 2 days ago. She'd found it in a donation bin of a thrift store called Second Chances, tucked between tangled scarves and a Ziploc full of costume jewelry. It was scratched, slightly bent, and unmistakable. It had belonged to Hannah Morrow, Erin's best friend, a girl who had vanished without a trace on October 12th. The house on Penrose was exactly as she'd left it, porch sagging, mailbox dented. The same smell of lemon polish and old paper that had seeped into the walls like memory. Erin parked, engine ticking as it cooled. Her reflection in the windshield was sharper than she expected. Older, thinner, same tired eyes her mother used to warn would give her away in poker. She reached into her pocket and pulled out the bracelet. 3 charms, a music note, a tiny dog with its head tilted, and the letter H. It didn't just look like Hannah's bracelet, it was Hannah's bracelet. Erin used to hold it in class when Hannah would pass it over during tests. A lucky charm, she said. For music and mutts and me, she'd laugh. It had disappeared with her. The thrift store hadn't been there back then. It sat across from the old post office, wedged between a laundromat and an antique shop that had been closed for so long it might as well have turned into a museum exhibit. The sign above the door was painted by hand, Second Chances, faded pink letters on warped cedar. Erin had walked in on a whim. Nothing looked like it belonged in the present. Wood-paneled walls, an old fan that clicked every time it rotated, and the unmistakable smell of time, dust, paper, fabric softener. Behind the counter, a woman in her 60s was humming to a cassette tape version of Dreams by Fleetwood Mac, bobbing her head slightly as she rearranged a pile of hand-knitted potholders. Erin had wandered. Old postcards, rusted lunchboxes, a box of mismatched keys, and then the case. And the bracelet. Her breath had caught like a punch to the ribs. "Where did this come from?" she asked. The woman barely looked up. "Donation bin last week. Might have come from the Jeffries estate. They cleaned out an attic up in South Ashland." "Did they say anything? A name?" She shook her head. "They just left 3 boxes and an old dollhouse." "You want the bracelet?" Erin nodded. $3. Erin paid in silence. She hadn't called anyone, not the police. Not even her father. She wasn't ready for that yet. She wasn't ready for what the bracelet meant. Not just that someone still had it, but that someone had given it away. Or worse, that someone had tried to bury it. She sat on the front porch that night watching the wind roll through the old willow tree. Its bark was cracked like dry skin, and the swing that used to hang from the thickest branch was gone. Just 2 old bolts still embedded in the wood like broken. She held the bracelet in her hand and closed her eyes. She remembered Hannah's laugh, the way she chewed cinnamon gum until the flavor disappeared, how she always walked one step ahead on the trail, and how she never, ever took that bracelet. The first night back was restless. The house creaked in familiar places. Her father snored 2 rooms down. The smell of antiseptic clung to the hallway from years of sponge baths. The fan above her made a low whirring sound that kept rhythm with her heartbeat. At 3:17 a.m., she sat up. She reached for her phone, opened notes, and typed, October 12, 2007. Field trip to Dead Elk Preserve. Bus never returned. 14 students, 1 teacher. Hannah Morrow included. I was homesick. Fever. Bracelet resurfaced June 2025. Found in Second Chance's thrift store, Ashland. Source, Jeffrey's estate donation. She stared at the screen, then added, Why now? The next morning, the town looked smaller. Ashland always felt that way when you returned. The roads tighter, the sidewalks older, the buildings shorter somehow. Aaron parked in front of Ashland Creek Middle School just before 9 a.m. It hadn't changed. Same sagging roof, same metal letters half missing above the front entrance. Welcome to Ashland Creek Mid-E School. The flagpole clinked in the breeze. The hedges were freshly trimmed. But the windows looked blank. She stepped out, her coat wrapped tight on. The bracelet was in her pocket again. Her hands fidgeted with it, like it might answer something. The front office was surprisingly modern inside. Digital check-in, new paint, motivational posters on the wall that looked like they had been printed during lockdown. The receptionist looked up with a practiced smile. Can I help you? I'm Aaron Mallory, class of 2000. I used to live here. My dad was Thomas Mallory, taught shop. Oh, she said. Mr. Mallory, he was lovely. Retired in, 2018? Aaron nodded. Yeah, he's recovering from a second stroke. I'm here to help out for a bit. The receptionist softened. I'm sorry to hear that. What can we do for you? I was hoping to look at some old yearbooks, around 2007 if possible. The woman paused, smile fading slightly. That was, the year of the trip. Aaron nodded. Yes. You knew one of them? Hannah. She was my best. The woman glanced around, then leaned forward slightly. I'm not sure what we still have. There was a cleanup a few years back. Privacy regulations, storage limits, all that. I don't need private info, just photos, names, a copy of the class list. She hesitated, then stood. There might be something in the archive cabinet in the teacher's lounge. Give me a minute. Aaron waited. Every tick of the clock felt louder in her ears. Outside, the breeze picked up. She thought she heard something. A metal clank in the distance, faint and rhythmic, like something swaying from a chain. When the receptionist returned, she held a slim binder and an old yearbook in plastic. Here, please don't remove anything. You can look here at the counter, Aaron. Student bus assignments. Fall 2007, Bus 2, Bus 7, Bus 11. Then, Bus 12. Next to it, a label in red pen, October 12th. Field trip, Dead Elk Preserve. Below that, where the names should have been, there was only black marker, redacted, line after line blacked out, all 14 names. Even the teacher's line, Supervisor E. Vance, blacked out. Aaron stared. She leaned in. Under the marker, faint impressions of type remained. Not readable, but present. Someone had tried to erase them, deliberately. She took a photo with her phone, heart thudding in her ears. You find what you needed? The receptionist asked, her voice cautious. Aaron stood slowly. Not yet, she said, but I will. Outside, the breeze had turned colder. Across the parking lot, the trees beyond the baseball field swayed harder than before, though there was no real wind. A crow watched her from the fence, its head tilted, 1 foot lifted. Aaron walked back to her car, the bracelet cold in her palm. She didn't say, oh, but something had changed. She could feel it. Ashland had been quiet for 18 years, too quiet, and now something was listening. Ashland, Oregon. June 15th, 2025. Erin hadn't planned to stay more than a week, maybe 2. Just long enough to refill her father's meds, schedule the follow-up MRI, and get the house sorted before she headed back to Boston, or what was left of her life there. But time in Ashland didn't move like it did in the city. It settled, it stretched, it dug its fingers into old memories and pulled. The second morning back, Erin woke to the sound of her father coughing from the kitchen. The sound used to startle her. Now it was almost a relief. She padded down the hallway in a hoodie and socks, passing the hallway mirror she always avoided. Her reflection caught her anyway. Dark eyes, collarbones sharper than before, lips chapped from the altitude change. She made coffee silently, while her father sorted pills at the table. Thomas Mallory had aged differently than she expected. Not slower, not faster, just sideways, like his body had rearranged its priorities. His hand still moved with a craftsman's precision, but the strength was gone. His shoulders hunched more. His voice, when it came, was raspier. "You went out yesterday," he said without looking up. "Yeah." "School?" She nodded. "You found something?" She paused. "Sort of." He nodded, as if that was all he could offer, or all he was allowed to. The truth was, Erin hadn't really been living in Boston, not fully. Her lease had ended months ago. Her bylines at the paper had grown sporadic, then vanished altogether. She told people she was freelancing, that she needed the flexibility. But really, she'd run out of stories that weren't hers, and she was tired of writing about other people's grief, when hers had never left. She'd never spoken publicly about the field trip, never given interviews, never written op-eds. She didn't go to the reunions, didn't visit the memorial bench, didn't light a candle at the annual vigil. The truth. She hated the vigil, the way it reduced 14 lives to a single paragraph and a moment of silence under cheap folding chairs and rain. She hated that everyone else got to move on, even when they didn't. Hannah had been her closest friend since 2nd grade. They met in the nurse's office after Erin split her lip trying to beat a boy in a race across the mall. Hannah was already there with a bee sting on her cheek and a sticker book in her lap. They traded silence for stickers, and silence became friendship. By 7th grade, they were inseparable. Sleepovers, mixed CDs, scribbled notes passed during math. Inside jokes that nobody else understood. Erin still remembered their last real conversation, the night before the field trip. They were sitting on Hannah's porch eating watermelon Pop Rocks and talking about high school. How different it'd be. How stupid the 8th graders seemed from the outside. "I'm going to make varsity choir," Hannah said confidently, "even if I have to bribe them with Oreos." Erin laughed. "I don't think that's how auditions work." Hannah grinned. "Watch me." And then she said something that Erin would carry for years. "Some of us get out, some of us just get stuck." At the time, it meant nothing. Now, it wouldn't leave her. After breakfast, Erin opened the garage. Dust drifted in the sunlight like ash. Her dad's tools were still on the pegboard. Boxes lined the shelves, some labeled, some not, but one box, on the top shelf under a tarp, was exactly where she remembered it. She pulled it down carefully. Ashland Field Trip, 2007. That's all the box said. Inside, newspaper clippings, a VHS tape with News 5 raw footage written in faded marker, a red spiral notebook, and a copy of the student directory from that year. She stared at the cover, then opened it. Page after page of names, bus assignments, contact numbers. Then she reached Bus 12. Her name wasn't there. She knew it wouldn't be. She'd been homesick. But she looked anyway, and there it was. Hannah Morrow, seat 14B next to it. A small red asterisk. Someone, her father, maybe, had marked it. Erin turned to the notebook. The handwriting wasn't hers. It was her father's, page after page of notes. Jeffries was maintenance that week. Why no interview? No GPS backup saved? Too early? Where did Vance come from? Who approved the bus reroute? And near the back, underlined twice, DEP 27, not on public records. Erin felt her mouth go dry. She took a photo of the page, then stared at the garage ceiling. Her father had been looking into this. For how long? And why hadn't he told her? That afternoon, Erin walked to the library. It hadn't changed much. The same wooden chairs that squeaked, the same librarian, Ms. Ellie, now well into her 70s and moving a little slower than before. "Erin Mallory?" she asked, surprised. "Well, look what the cat dragged in." "I need to check the archives," Erin said. Miss Ellie raised an eyebrow. "You digging up ghosts?" "Just trying to understand one." Ellie paused, then nodded slowly. "Don't stay in the dark too long, sweet girl. Sometimes the dark remembers you back." The microfiche room was colder than the rest of the library. Erin pulled reels from October 2007. She already knew what she'd find, or what she wouldn't, and she was right. October 13th, front page, field trip bus missing, search underway. October 16th, hope fades as search enters day 4. October 18th, memorial planned for Friday. After that, nothing, no follow-up, no final statement from the school, no federal report, just silence. Erin loaded the VHS when she got home. The footage was grainy, local news, a helicopter shot over Dead Elk Preserve, sheriff interviews, crying parents. Emergency tents. But then something else. B-roll, unused footage. The camera focused on a concrete slab in the woods, half buried, cracked, painted letters barely visible. DEP 27. The shot cut quickly. Back to talking heads. Erin paused the tape. That symbol, DEP, had shown up in her father's. What was it? What was underneath that concrete, and why had no one ever mentioned it? That night, she confronted her father. She waited until he was settled in his recliner, remote in hand, the TV playing reruns of Antiques Roadshow at low volume. "Dad," she said. He didn't look up. "Why didn't you ever tell me you looked into the field trip?" Still nothing. "You knew something. You kept that box. You marked the directory. DEP 27. What is it?" He shifted slightly, eyes still on the screen. Quietly. "I thought it was over." "What was?" He turned to her. And for the first time in days, weeks maybe, he looked truly awake. "They didn't want anyone asking questions, Erin, and people who did stopped asking." "Who are they?" He hesitated, then whispered, "People you don't meet in daylight." She didn't sleep again that night. The bracelet sat on the nightstand, its silver catching the moonlight. The music note charm glinted like it was trying to speak. She stared at it for hours, until her phone buzzed. 1:42 a.m. Unknown, number 8 text, "Stop digging. You're walking into something that never ended." Erin sat up. She looked toward her window, and for a split second, just long enough to doubt, she thought she saw movement at the end of the driveway. A shape, a shadow. Gone. Ashland, Oregon, June 16th, 2025. The morning after the message, Erin turned off the porch light before sunrise. She'd barely slept. The shadow from the night before played like a loop behind her eyes. The stillness of it, how it hadn't moved like a person, more like something watching without needing to breathe. She stepped outside and looked down the road. Empty. But something had shifted. The silence wasn't silence anymore. It was presence. At 7:04 a.m., she drove to the thrift store. Second Chances wasn't supposed to open until 10, but she waited in her car anyway, watching the windows. When the bell finally chimed and the door opened, the same older woman from the counter walked in with a brown paper bag and a thermos. Erin followed. "I'm sorry to bother you again," she said. The woman squinted. "Oh, bracelet girl. I just need to ask, the donation. You said it came from the Jeffries estate?" "Far as I remember, yes. Big donation. Couple of boxes, old photos, some records. And that dollhouse that smelled like mildew. Do you still have the records? The woman frowned. We don't usually keep inventory like that. But if it came from the Jeffries attic, do you know where they lived? She hesitated. Up on Greystone Ridge, I think, near the old water tower. Erin nodded, already pulling her phone from. Why? The woman asked. Erin hesitated. Because this bracelet belonged to a girl who was never supposed to. By 8:30 a.m., Erin was parked in front of 142 Greystone Ridge. The house was empty, for sale. A crooked sign tilted in the yard, half covered in ivy. She stepped out, the early sun already warming the gravel beneath her shoes. A motion sensor light clicked on under the eaves, blinking once, twice, before settling into silence again. There were 3 trash bins on the side of the house. The third one was different. Older. Metal. Dented. She opened it. Inside, a ripped paper bag, broken glass, and a folder. Old, weathered, water-damaged. She pulled it out, wiped off the dust. On the corner, ACMS, Archive Transfer, Ashland Creek Middle School. She opened it slowly, hands trembling. Inside were attendance records, lesson plans, a few photos clipped together, and then a list, typed, faint. Field trip roster. October 12, 2007. Bus number 12. Dead Elk Preserve. Erin counted the names, 14, and at the bottom, Supervisor Elliot Vance. She flipped the page. Another sheet was stapled behind it. Authorized route map, Dead Elk Preserve, via gravel spur access. She blinked. Gravel spur? That wasn't the route used by the town for field trips. It was a private maintenance road. She remembered the town meeting from years ago. How the mayor insisted the road had been closed since the 90s. How no bus would have used it. And yet, here it was. She took photos of every page. At the bottom, barely legible, was a stamp. Deeply internal. Non-disclosure required. Her breath caught. Dead Elk Project. It wasn't just to preserve. Back home, Erin dug through her father's office again. At the bottom of a locked drawer behind a stack of old bank statements, she found a manila envelope labeled Unconfirmed Vance. Inside were 2 pages. The first, a staff application, Elliot Vance, temporary science instructor, hired September 20th, 2000. Terminated October 13th, 2007. Reason, not listed. The second, a black and white ID photo. Erin stared at the face. It was the same man from the VHS footage, the one driving the bus, unsmiling, thin, deep-set eyes. But the signature below the form wasn't his. It was Eleanor M. Wexley. She froze. The same woman who had signed off on the school audit, the same name on the personnel review that redacted every file after 2007. She opened her laptop. Eleanor M. Wexley, Ashland, Oregon. School board nothing. No address. No current employment. Just one archived mention. In a zoning document from 2006. Temporary access granted. DEP site. 27 Observer. Wexley. It wasn't a school board role. It was government oversight. The next day, Erin returned to the trailhead at Dead Elk Preserve. Not the public one, the private one. Gravel spur was still marked by a decaying wooden sign, half swallowed by moss. Private access only. U.S. Environmental Division. She parked and followed the trail on foot. No tire marks, no cameras, just quiet. The forest closed around her like a secret. Birds didn't sing here. The air smelled metallic. 30 minutes in, the trail forked. One path was overgrown. The other was blocked by a rusted gate with a single padlock, snapped in half as if someone had forced it. Beyond the gate, the earth sloped downward. She followed it. At the bottom, a clearing. And in the center, a concrete slab. Cracked. Marked. Familiar. DEP 27. She stepped forward, knelt, and then saw it. A faint engraving on the side. Weathered, but legible under the dirt. She said, "Wait." Her chest tightened. She remembered the phrase. It was scratched into the garage wall in the VH. It was in her father's notes. Erin took a photo. Then she noticed something else. Near the edge of the slab, a small metal object half buried in mud. She dug gently, pulled it out. A charm, silver. A music note, not Hannah's, a second one. Its surface was scorched on one side. Back in her car, she stared at the charm, hands trembling. She had it tested the next morning. A local jeweler confirmed genuine sterling silver. Manufactured between 2004 and 2006. Slight chemical damage consistent with prolonged exposure to heat and moisture. Could have been buried, he said. Could have been burned, she asked. Do you recognize the maker? He pointed to a faint stamp near the clasp. WM. He used to sell them at Carter's Jewelry on 5th, but that place closed after the fire in 2008. That night, someone knocked on the door 3 times. Sharp, measured. She opened it slowly. No one was there. But on the welcome mat, a single page of lined paper, folded. Inside, a child's handwriting. We didn't get off. We just went under. Beneath it, a drawing, a forest, a bus, a figure in black standing beneath a tree with no face. Her pulse roared in her ears. She looked up again and thought she saw someone at the end of the block just for a second, then gone. The next morning, her father was silent at breakfast. Too silent. When she asked, "Did you hear the knock last night?" He didn't answer. She placed the drawing on the table. He looked at it, then closed his eyes. "Burn it," he said. "What?" He opened them again, bloodshot, wide. "Whatever you do, don't keep that." Later that day, she scanned the paper, uploaded it to her encrypted drive. She didn't burn it. She needed it. She needed all of it, because someone was trying to stop her, and someone else, someone smaller, someone lost, was trying to speak. Ashland, Oregon, June 19th to 22nd, 2025. Some answers don't clear things up. They only make the darkness deeper. That's what Erin Mallory learned in the 4 days queuing between silence and confession. The first lead came from someone she hadn't expected. Elliot Sloan, a former school janitor who now worked nights at a gas station near Dead Elk Preserve. She only found him because of a receipt, buried in her father's archive box, for emergency generator fuel from October 13th, 2007, signed with Sloan's initials. She visited him just after 10 p.m., pretending to buy coffee. "You used to work at Ashland Creek Middle," she said. He blinked. That was a long time ago. "You were on duty the week the bus went missing." His jaw tightened. "I was." "Did you see anything?" He hesitated. Then, "I saw the bus pull back into the lot, just after dark." Erin froze. "You mean after it disappeared? No kids, no driver, just the bus, parked wrong, engine cold. And what did you do?" "I went to report it." He looked away. "By the time I came back with the principal, it was gone." "Gone?" He nodded, like it had never been there. The second lead came from the public library. Erin reviewed school board minutes from 2006 to 2000. Most meetings were mundane, budget approvals, textbook orders, cafeteria complaints, but one entry stood out. March 2006, discussion. Temporary lease agreement with Department of Environmental Preservation for parcel DEP 27. Authorized by Eleanor Wexley. No student access permitted. That was before the 2007 trip, which meant the school knew the site was closed and still sent students there. She found another note. September 2007, 2 weeks before the field trip. All field trip communications moved to internal memo system, parent letters to be pre-approved. Why? Why would they hide the route? On June 21st, she confronted Nadine Hale, a former teacher who now ran a small used bookstore. "You taught science that year," Erin said. "I did," Nadine admitted. "You knew Elliot Vance." Nadine looked uncomfortable. "He was quiet, temporary. We all thought he was odd." "Did you know he'd be on the trip?" "No." That morning, I asked where Ms. Givens was. She was the original chaperone. They told me she called out, but she didn't. She told me the night before she was ready. So someone pulled her off? Nadine nodded slowly. They put him in her place. That night, Erin returned to Gravel Spur. This time, she didn't stop at the concrete slab. She followed the trail down further, into the dense trees past where the maintenance road had collapsed years ago. At the edge of a moss-covered incline, she found it, a second clearing, and in the center, overgrown and sunken, a rusted bus chassis, burned, gutted. Almost unrecognizable, she climbed down and circled it. There was no number, no license plate, but near the back, scratched into the metal with something sharp, "We're still here." Her breath hitched. Inside, nothing, just ash, mold, and silence. But underneath one seat, almost fused to the floor, a child's sneaker. Purple. Size 3, the same style Hannah used to wear. She took it home, cleaned it, placed it next to the bracelet. And that night, she dreamed of the woods, but the trees were growing backward, the sky moving like water, and the bus doors opening with a click she felt in her spine. On the morning of June 22nd, Erin received an envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside, a single Polaroid, grainy, taken from a distance. It showed a group of children standing inside what looked like an underground hallway. Concrete, rusted lights. And in the corner, Hannah, frozen mid-smile, holding something in her hand, the same bracelet Erin had found. On the back of the photo, "We never left. You just forgot how to look." She showed it to her father. He paled. Then he whispered, "They're using you." Who? The ones who started it, the ones who kept it quiet. They needed someone to reopen it. You're the key, Erin, because you were never supposed to survive. He looked at her, and in his eyes there was fear she had never seen before. They left you behind. Ashland, Oregon, June 23rd, 24th, 2025. Erin wasn't sleeping anymore. She stopped trying after the Polaroid, because how do you rest when the dead send you photographs? She studied the photo in the daylight. The hallway, the concrete, the children. Hannah's face wasn't distorted. It was clear, clearer than it had any right to be, given the grainy exposure. Her eyes were locked on the camera, as if she'd known, as if she was trying to be found. She tracked Eleanor Wexley through an archive tax filing. Her address was now listed as a historical research residency near the old Echo Reservoir, 15 miles north of Ashland, isolated, forested, no cell reception. Erin packed light, recorder, notebook, burner phone, the bracelet, the sneaker, and the photo. She left her father a note. "I need to finish this. Stay safe." The house near Echo Reservoir wasn't a house. It looked like an old ranger station turned bunker, reinforced windows, steel door, and a radio antenna snapped off at the top. The mailbox said M. Wexley in faded tape. Erin knocked. No answer. She knocked again, harder. Then the door opened, but not all the way. A woman in her late 70s peered out, eyes sharp beneath a white braid. "You shouldn't be here." Erin held up the photo. "I think I should." Inside, the air was dry, filtered, processed. The walls were covered in files, paper maps, and index cards pinned to corkboards in rows, hundreds of them categorized by color. Wexley motioned to a chair without a word. Erin sat. "You were the observer assigned to DEP 27, she said. "I was." "You signed off on the field trip." Erin stared. Wexley sighed. The program wasn't about environmental study. That was the cover. Then what was it? Wexley turned, picked up a folder, dropped it on the table. Inside, diagrams. Brain scans. Journal entries written in children's handwriting. Memory displacement, isolation protocol, temporal loop exposure. This was a government-funded experiment, Wexley said. It started in the 80s. designed to test the effects of sensory manipulation on short-term memory in children. Why children? They're more elastic, more responsive, more malleable. Erin felt bile rise in her throat. They were kept underground, Wexley said. Sometimes for hours, sometimes for days. They were told they were on a bus ride, but they never left. Erin's chest. Some of them adapted, some resisted, but one girl... Erin's voice. Hannah, Wexley nodded. She was different. She remembered things. She started telling the others, whispering that the world outside had stopped, that time was looping. She was 12. She was dangerous, Wexley. To the protocol, and stood furious. You buried 14 kids alive to watch what happened. We didn't bury them, Wexley said. We divided them. Some stayed, some didn't. What does that mean? Some children were removed before the shutdown, before the experiment collapsed. Erin narrowed her eyes. Did Hannah get out? Wexley didn't answer. Instead, she walked to a drawer, opened it, handed Erin a cassette tape. On the label, Session 9. Subject, HM. Erin didn't wait. She played it. Recording starts. Hannah's voice, soft, trembling. I heard it again. Wexley's voice. What did you hear? That hum, like something under the seats. It talks, I think. I don't understand the words. Do the others hear it? No, just me. I think they're asleep. Pause. No, I'm afraid I'll forget again. Forget what? That I exist. Recording ends. Erin's hand shook. She was awake. She was the only one, Then Wexley handed Erin a second folder. Inside, Erin's own name. Erin Mallory, subject 15. Status, excluded reason. Medical disqualification. Febrile response. She was supposed to bring you too, Wexley said, but you got sick. Who? Your teacher, your district counselor. They were all part of it. Your father was not. That's why he was left out. Erin stepped back. You knew. You watched. You let this happen. I recorded it, Wexley said. And when it collapsed, I tried to stop them from erasing it. I failed. Why keep this now? Because they've started again, and you're the last thread they couldn't cut. Erin left the house with the folder, the tape, and a map Wexley drew by hand. A place not on any official record. DEP subsite 9. Accessed beneath the old mile marker, near where the GPS cut out in 2007, where the trail ended, and the real site began. That night, Erin sat in her car, parked above the mile marker, hands gripping the wheel like it was the only thing keeping her in reality. She stepped out at 2:12 a.m. Flashlight, recorder, photo, cassette. The forest was dead silent. No wind, no birds, just dirt, roots, and something beneath. She found the marker, dug at the base. Her fingers struck metal, a trap door. She opened it. Stairs led downward into darkness. The air was cold, not leather, like machinery. She stepped into a corridor. Fluorescent lights flickered weakly overhead. Walls painted white once, now stained and cracked. On the right, a door marked Observation, HM. Inside, a small bed, a desk, a cracked mirror. And on the wall, written in crayon, If you find this, it means I remembered. Erin's breath hitched. She took out the cassette, played it again. Listened to her friend's voice in the place where she was last seen. Further down, the hallway opened into a chamber. In the center, a school bus, intact, coated in dust. Inside, 14 seats, each one labeled with a name. Hannah's seat was empty. On the floor beneath it, a folded piece of paper. Erin picked it up. It was blank on one side. On the other, a drawing. 2 girls, one holding a bracelet, the other holding a key. Behind them, a door, slightly open. Erin turned toward the far end of the chamber and saw the door. Real, metal, rusted, with a keypad. She stepped forward. Entered Hannah's birthday. Beep. Click. The door opened. Inside, silence. Then, a voice. soft, familiar. "Aaron?" She froze. The voice was coming from an old speaker in the wall. "Is it really you?" the voice asked. She stepped closer. "Hannah?" "I didn't forget," the voice said. "I waited." Aaron's eyes welled. "I'm here. I'm going to get you out." "No," Hannah said. "I can't leave." "Why not?" "Because I never did." The speaker crackled, then static, then silence. The lights flickered once, and Aaron turned to find the bus doors open, even though she'd never touched them. Ashland, Oregon, June 24, 2025. The sun was rising, but the forest didn't care. The leaves didn't rustle. The birds didn't sing. Aaron stood at the entrance of the corridor, facing the now-closed metal door. Hannah's voice still echoed inside her head, not as a ghost, not as memory, as presence. She sat on the concrete steps, took out the drawing, 2 girls, one with a bracelet, one behind them, a door half open. She hadn't understood it before, but now she did. Aaron called her father, left a message. "Dad, you were right. It was real. She was real. And I was supposed to be there, but you saved me. You got sick too, remember? That week, when you wouldn't let me go on that trip? That wasn't just luck. That was love. I know I haven't said this in a long time, but I need you to hear it. Thank you for being the only one who cared when no one else did." She returned to the surface. Wexley was waiting. In the car, still, unmoving. "I knew you'd go down there," she said softly. "I also knew you'd come back up different." Aaron stared at her. "You knew she was still there?" "I didn't know," Wexley said, "but I suspected." "Why?" "Because she was too strong to vanish." Aaron pulled the drawing from her pocket. Showed it. "She drew this, for me. She remembered me, when no one else did." "You were the only one who saw her," Wexley said, "not just as data, as human." They sat in silence for a while. Then Wexley said, "I was young, ambitious, and when the project fell apart, I tried to preserve what I could. But some memories aren't meant to be preserved. They're meant to be set free." Aaron looked at her. They returned to the site that evening, together. Wexley carried the original files. All of them. Aaron carried the tape recorder. They set up candles along the chamber, lit them one by one, not for science, not for justice, for remembrance. Each name etched on the bus was read aloud, slowly, carefully. Then Aaron placed the drawing on the driver's seat. "Do you remember," Aaron whispered, "that summer day we got in trouble for throwing glitter in the classroom fan?" Wexley smiled faintly. "She said it looked like snow." She was the only one who wanted winter to come early. Aaron's voice cracked. "I want her to know that it came, and she's still here, even if the world forgot." They stayed until midnight. Then Aaron locked the trapdoor, sealed it with concrete. She didn't want it found again. Not like that. Not by people who didn't understand. Back in town, Aaron stopped by the high school. Inside, she requested the 2007 yearbook. The secretary raised an eyebrow. "Weird," she said. "We had one here. Now it's not showing in the system." Aaron smiled. "It's okay. I remember every page." She visited her childhood home that night. Her dad was waiting on them. Later, they sat in the kitchen. The old cassette played in the background. Just static now. But it was the right kind of static, the kind that told you something was there. Her father asked, "Is it over?" "No, but now I know where it began." As she prepared to leave Ashland, Aaron stopped by the lake, the one they used to visit on field trips. She stood by the dock, watching the water, and for a moment, just a moment, she saw a girl on the opposite shore, not waving, not walking, just standing as if waiting, and Aaron didn't blink. Because some things, when finally remembered, shouldn't be looked away from. Ashland, Oregon, July 1st, 2025. Aaron didn't cry anymore. Not because the pain was gone, but because she finally knew where to place it. She had left something behind in that forest, underground, in the dark, buried in notebooks and drawings made by trembling, tiny hands. But what she brought back wasn't closure. It was something she didn't know she had lost, the ability to remember it without needing to make sense of it. At the airport, she held the bracelet. Still dirty, still broken, but no longer a symbol of tragedy. Now, a promise. She opened her field notebook. On the final page she wrote, "They thought forgetting would protect us, but forgetting was the experiment, and memory was always the key." Back in San Diego, the city looked smaller, or maybe she had just grown. Time didn't rush anymore. It walked beside her, like it finally understood she needed silence between the steps. Weeks later, a letter arrived. No return address, just her name, written in blue ink. Inside, a Xerox copy of the missing yearbook page. In the center, Hannah Kellerman, standing by the forest, alone. At the bottom, a handwritten note. "Some people never vanish. They just become harder to see." Erin smiled. She didn't need confirmation. Hannah existed, not as data, not as a missing person, as a presence. Quiet, but unshakable. On a quiet Sunday, Erin visited the ocean. She sat on the sand, pulled out the old tape recorder, pressed play, static, then a girl's voice, barely audible. Erin?" She didn't flinch, didn't cry. Just whispered back, "I remember." She placed the recorder in her bag, stood, faced the waves, and walked forward.